Call to order the City Council regular meeting for the City of Wyoming, Minnesota, May 7th, 2024. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum. Member Onstad, Member Yeager, and Mayor Iverson are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first on the agenda is open forum. It's an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on items that are on or not on the current agenda. Items requiring council action may be deferred to staff or boards and commissions for research and future council agendas if appropriate. You will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you conduct yourself in a professional, courteous manner, and please refrain from the use of profanity. Failure to abide by this policy may result in the loss of your privilege to speak. I know we have several people on the list, so I'll just start from the beginning who said they would like to speak. The first is Brian Benson. Get it over with, right? You're good.
All right. Hello. Thank you for hearing us. We kind of expressed our issue the other day, and I appreciate the time that you spent with us, even though it wasn't under normal protocol, but we really appreciate it. We've been in talk with Rob and Mark and Fred, and we really appreciate the time that you're spending with us as well. But we just want to make sure everyone on the City Council is fully aware of our situation. We're not here to try and go further in depth than that tonight because we are talking. Just want to make sure everyone's aware of kind of what's going on.
Brian, can you state your name and address, please?
Sure. Yeah, it's Brian Benson. I'm at 24,000 Helium Court.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. So we're in the Liberty Ponds neighborhood. We have a community well and septic system. The well is just fine. It is 2 separate septic systems. Both septic plus drain fields are in a world of hurt. On one of the system, the drain field is basically, can't even explain how bad it is. I mean, it's really, really, really bad. And the septic on that one isn't doing great either. It's doing better. We've done a lot of improvements and dumped a lot of money into it. It's doing better. The other system, the drain field's holding. It's with Band-Aids, duct tape is keeping it together. But that septic part is completely failing. So we're also in the talks with the MPCA. We are trying to get anyone and everyone that's willing to help us to please help us. That's really our plea at this point. So best case scenario, as we've talked a little bit about, is if Chisago, which it sounds like they want to, I don't know if they're going to or will, but it sounds like Chisago wants to extend their sewer line down to 23. I'm probably not the best person to know everything in the loop with that, but from talking with Joe Triplett, it sounds like they want to do that. And then, so that's best case scenario if we can somehow get sewer down Highway 8 too close to our neighborhood where we can actually hook up to that. Second best scenario would be to redo our entire system. We're in talks with our septic care company and an engineer, Stantec. So Septic Check is our our management company for the septic system, or maintenance, I guess, company. And then Stantec is the engineer, and they're kind of estimating, we're talking a few $1 million to fix our system. That's kind of the second best scenario of if we can actually get it approved through the MPCA and all of those approval processes. That's going to put us basically out of money. I mean, we don't have the finances to do that, so we're definitely going to need some help figuring out some finances. Worst case scenario, the Stantec engineer started talking about we might need to do a mound system. We don't even have the room for a mound system. We talked a little bit about that, maybe having to purchase another lot nearby us to have room for the lot system or the mound system. And so we're really kind of concerned about that piece of it. Like even if somehow we magically find the finances, still can we even get it approved and do what we need to do? So at this point, really, again, it's just to make sure everyone in Wyoming is aware of our situation. We desperately need help. Both figuring out the financial piece also, but some of the other logistics things. We have full-time jobs. I am not great at this sort of thing. I do my best.
You did fine.
Thanks. So yeah, really that's what we're here for, is just
okay.
looking for help, assistance, any way, shape, or form that we can. And everyone's been great so far. We just still need more help, and I know they're working on it too behind the scenes. So,
Mr. Linwood, Mr. Erickson, you've all been in talks, so you'll update council as things kind of move along?
We did have a meeting with some individuals on the board of Liberty Ponds this Monday, and we got some information from them, and we're going to try to work with their maintenance company and their engineer to try to get some more information, just to kind of help us understand a little better based on what they've been really good at sharing the information, the status of it, but try to get a little more technical standpoint and understanding of where those are for myself, Mr. Wack, and Mr. Erickson to understand that, and Mr. Reeves as well. So I don't know if anything you want to add, Mr. Erickson.
I certainly can, and I appreciate your time yesterday and getting us up to speed. We had a meeting yesterday morning to talk a little bit more thoroughly about this, and we've also reached out to the MPCA and talked a little bit about some different funding options. And there's quite a few things out there that we've looked into, and I'll maybe just highlight a couple just for the sake, just to let you know that we are working on it and we are working through some things. But the MPCA does have a Clean Water Partnership Loan Program. That is one that the city could essentially sponsor them. It wouldn't be something that we would be taking the loan out, but we would be doing this, they would be doing that through us. It'd be a 1.5% interest rate. It's a 7-year term with semi-annual payments. That's one option. So that's really fantastic rate. Another one is the Ag BMP program through the Department of Agriculture. That I don't know what the rate is, but they indicated that the county finds a bank within this area and they administer this loan program. And I don't know what that rate is and what the terms are, but we are trying to figure some things out on that front. And I know your preference of options, and so I know we've looked in to that a little bit further as well, and we'll continue to do that. But just wanted to highlight some of the things that we've looked into and found thus far.
Perfect, I appreciate that. Thank you you did a great job. It is a not easy to do, so.
And thank you. I mean, you got in one phone call so much further with the MPCA than we did. So I really appreciate that. I can't even express how much I appreciate that.
No problem.
So,
I have a quick question. Are you the main contact person then for the city to get a hold of in that area? Or are you
Yes.
representing kind of everybody?
Yes.
Unfortunately, you're saying, okay.
But Emma's definitely on board to be able to reach out to her too, right? Yes. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Are you the head of like your homeowners association? Okay.
Yeah, if we have to put titles on it, I'm the president. She's the treasurer.
Okay.
We consider all of us just board members, but if we have to put a title on it, I'm technically the president, which I'd like to just be the board member.
Well, we really appreciate staff looking into this and seeing what can be done. I like the 1% interest rate. Where do you get that at?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So awesome. Well, again, appreciate you being here, and the
Thanks.
city will keep you informed, and then they'll inform us as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate
Next on the agenda for speaking, we have Judy Coughlin. How are you, Judy? It's been a while. Good to see you.
Yes, it has.
Name and address.
Judy Coughlin, 8161 Pioneer Road. Good evening. I'm here tonight to ask the council to address the speed and safety issues that exist on Pioneer Road. Can you hear me okay, or do I need to adjust this?
Can you guys hear in the audience? We can hear up front, but if you, yep, so you're
Okay.
good.
So, as I'm sure you're all aware, there was a horrific head-on collision on Pioneer Road on April 26th in front of our house and our neighbor's house. The county press is now reporting that 3 people tragically lost their life in this accident. I'm sorry,
It's okay.
it's very difficult
Yeah.
for us, very sobering, upsetting to see this happen, and our hearts go out to the people who lost loved ones in this accident. Many of the residents who live on Pioneer Road have long felt that the speeds on Pioneer are excessive. And this, combined with the number of curves and rises and dips in the road, as well as the diminished sight lines along this road, have made it dangerous. The accident on April 26th is not the first time where a person has crossed the center line on that very same curve in the same location, and I'm sure it's not going to be the last. It has happened on a number of occasions where a vehicle is heading northwest, towards Wyoming from Highway 8, and and has crossed the center line, left the road, and ended up in the ditch in front of our house. On one occasion, a young girl smashed into a tree in our front yard. Other times, we have not seen it, but we've found vehicle parts in our ditch, and we've seen the tracks where the vehicle has left the road and ended up in the ditch. Last summer, a speeding driver heading towards Highway 8, in the other direction, left the road, hit our mailbox, knocked off the door, and sent it like 30 feet into our yard, and totally he knocked out our neighbor's mailbox, sending his 30 feet into his yard. And, we have pictures where the driver clearly was off the road, and our neighbor has a security camera, and he has video of it. The driver was clearly speeding, and he just kept going. He didn't stop. And I'm sure that every resident who lives on Pioneer has stories about the speeds on Pioneer, and I know that a number of them have posted on the police Facebook page after this recent accident regarding the speeds. So ever since Pioneer was rebuilt, we have not felt safe walking along that road like we did in the past. I also don't feel it's safe for Greg to mow in the ditch anymore. Just knowing that a speeding vehicle could miss the curve and fly off the road at any second. Now, since the accident, we have seen the police out on Pioneer Road. Both I saw them on Wednesday morning around 11 and Wednesday afternoon around 2, and again on Sunday afternoon. And we really do appreciate the additional patrol on that road. But I would have to say that the bulk of the speeding happens during the time when people are either going to work or coming home from work. It's not midday. It's very quiet on Pioneer on midday, but we see a significant increase in traffic volume and speed starting at around 3:30 or 4 in the afternoon and continuing to about 6. And not everybody speeds, but a lot of people are way above 40. I mean, they are. So in addition to more patrols during the busy times, we would like to ask the council to lower the speed limit to either 30 or 35 miles per hour along the entire length of Pioneer Road that lies within the city limits of Wyoming. It's already 30 miles an hour on the stretch of road closest to Wyoming Trail as you approach it on that curve. And for consistency, it makes sense that the whole road should be the same speed limit. Under Minnesota Statute 169.14, the city has the authority to lower the speed limit to at least 35 and possibly 30 miles an hour. So in the statute, it lists under speed limits 30 miles an hour for an urban district. And an urban district is described as, means the territory contiguous and to and including any city, street, or town road that is built up with structures devoted to business, industry, or dwelling houses situated at intervals of less than 100 feet for a distance of a quarter mile or more. And I would say that there are stretches on Pioneer that applies. In fact, right in front of our house, we're less than 100 feet apart. Now, parts of it would probably be considered a rural residential district, which means a territory contiguous to and including any city, street, or town that is built up with visible dwelling houses situated at intervals averaging 30 feet or less for a distance of a quarter mile or more. So, I mean, either way, I think either one of those would apply, and the city has the authority under the statute, and this law changed, a number of years ago. It didn't used to be this way, but the city can declare this road to be an urban district and set the speed limit at 30 miles an hour. So again, I'm looking at a statute, Minnesota Statute 169.14. miles an hour in a rural residential district. And then also subdivision, that was subdivision 2, I believe. Yes, okay, and then subdivision 5B, segment in an urban district. It talks about setting the speed limit, and then also in subdivision 5H, speed limits on city streets. A city may establish speed limits for city streets under the city's jurisdiction other than the limits provided in subdivision 2 without conducting an engineering and traffic investigation. This does not apply to town roads, county highways, or trunk highways in the city. And it does go on. It says it must be consistent, and, you know, I would say good view is 30 miles an hour, and that's straight as an arrow. And that does not have, you know, the dips and the curves and like Pioneer does. To kind of sum it up, honestly, given the speeds on that road, we realize even if the speed is lowered to 30, people might still go 40 or 50, but maybe not as many of them will. And some of them will still follow the speed limit, and it will be safer. And honestly, at this point, I don't see a valid reason for the speed limit to remain at 40 miles an hour on Pioneer Road. I feel that the safety of the residents who live on Pioneer and those that travel through should be a primary consideration of the council. And while we don't know all the factors that led to the head-on collision on April 26th, I have to believe that if the speed limit had been 30 miles an hour and both drivers had been traveling at 30 miles an hour, perhaps 3 lives wouldn't have been lost on that date. We respectfully request that you give this matter your full and thoughtful consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Coughlin. We appreciate that. Very well stated. If I could maybe have Mr. Erickson and Chief Bauer at some point in time, I guess I would be looking for, do we know the average speed that's being traveled? Do we know how many people are actually from that, who's traveling on that road? You know what I mean? So is it people trying to get to Wyoming? I know that people are from Lindstrom and Chisago City, I believe, that were traveling on that road. So it would be interesting how many crashes has happened since we've redone the road. The state statute, I think we've talked about this before, and I think there was some things with that, or you're still trying to figure out. So what I'm asking is maybe we could come back, if you can gather some knowledge about it and information and statistics, come back to council and present it maybe?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, we certainly can. This has been something that's been on our radar, not only Pioneer, but a number of other roadways as well to evaluate and discuss that. I know Chief Bauer has a device that is not quite like the signs that you see out, the driver feedback signs, that
Yeah.
also can collect data, but it's collecting data as people are slowing down because they see the sign and things. So I know he has a device that he's gonna be utilizing to do somewhat of a speed study, just to understand what is happening out there with regards to speeding in traffic. And so we're gonna analyze that there, as part of the design process. We were able to identify a portion of Pioneer Road as an urban district, and that's the portion that's 30 miles an hour now. We did work with MnDOT on that. We talked about the remaining portion, and we were not granted that at that time. But I will say that there is different legislation that does allow more latitude for communities to set speed limits. And so I know Mr. Linwood has looked at a number of different policies in other communities and trying to develop one. I think ideally we would have a policy so there's some consistency in place, but it is something that we're currently working on, not only on Pioneer, but other roads as well.
Okay, and we'll probably see that during your work session?
It would come back as a work session item, probably not too far in the distant future here, for sure. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
I do have a
Agreed.
question, though. We do have driver response signs out there. Are they not working to slow things down, or are they?
They're operational.
Well, I know they're operational, but are they effective at slowing people down?
That would be part of what we're looking. We literally just did a test last week on this new device to do a speed study that people wouldn't know that it's out there, to get an accurate reading and an accurate count of how many vehicles what the averages, what the mean, the median speeds are for this area and the volume and the time of day that we actually have an issue. We really want to be basing these decisions based on data, not just a complaint-based system. And we want to be making sure that we're making speed changes based on accurate information. There is some kind of change of thought that, speed limits do impact driver speeds, and we want to make sure that it's the right decision to do for that time. So with this device, we can get a better understanding, specifically where they're coming from. I don't know that we can give you a good representative of that, honestly,
Okay.
without running license plates on a regular basis. But we'd have a really good representation. I'm really excited about this device that we got. It was paid for with public safety aid money, that we can really get a good understanding of where do we need to be focusing our efforts, to speaking to her comment about making sure we're allocating time in the right area. I've got one cop working most of the time. So it's a matter of how do we allocate those resources, and if it's 8 in the morning, then we'll allocate it at that time. So this will help that.
So I would guess then the driver's response sign does not collect any kind of data, nor did we ever put the speed trailer out there to collect data?
The speed trailer impacts people's speed. It's not an accurate representation of their speeds. I mean, people slow down as a result of it, and it doesn't really give us that's why we purchased this device, to have a better understanding of what are true speeds and the volume when it's out there.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it's very similar. I'm on the roads all the time. Speed is crazy out there, but it's very similar when you see a squad car parked.
It impacts.
It
speed.
impacts, all of a sudden, everybody's just slowing
Yes,
down, but
correct.
if they didn't see that, they would continue with their
Correct.
speed. So I understand what you're saying with that.
So we want to make a decision based on
Yeah,
unimpacted driver behavior.
yeah,
If
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we look forward to that work session to hear all about it. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you very much. We also have Mr. Coughlin who wants to speak. Still have to give your address. No, you do. Yeah, you still have to. Yeah, for the record.
Greg Coughlin, 8161 Pioneer Road. Same subject as what Judy just talked about. We've been residents in that location for 35 years. I also want to note that for 31 years of my career, I've been a registered licensed civil engineer in the state of Minnesota. I've worked on significant transportation projects. My background is in road design, traffic engineering, state aid, operations and maintenance. And as part of my career, I've been involved in the TZD efforts in the state of Minnesota. TZD, towards zero death.
Okay.
Some of that work has led to significant laws in the state regarding traffic safety. The .08 alcohol law, the seatbelt law, the move over law, and there's a lot of other that the TZD efforts have led to. I take traffic safety very seriously. I take traffic fatalities very seriously, and there is no traffic fatality that is acceptable to me. I want to go back to the construction meetings that were held on Pioneer Road during the reconstruction. Many people spoke at those meetings. I remember specifically saying, bad things are going to happen. And the reason is you take an old road that's been in existence for decades, maybe even a century. You can barely travel 30 miles an hour on it. You turn it into a 10-ton facility, smooth, you widen it, you clear vegetation. However, you don't fix the slopes because you don't want to push out and purchase right away. So you end up with one-to-one slopes on the in slope of the road, and you end up with a V ditch. And you turn that into a 40-mile-an-hour facility. That doesn't make sense to me. Never did. Bad things are going to happen. July 16th of 2019, I came to the city council. I expressed those same concerns. I also shared what I had been witnessing as a resident of that facility. Speeds on the dynamic signs, 45 to 60 miles an hour. Vehicle tracks running off the road. Judy mentioned that our mailbox has been hit twice. She mentioned a tree in our yard has been hit. Drivers passing on the double yellow. At the time, I requested a speed limit change, 30 miles an hour, and I told you that you have the ability to do that. Mr. Erickson said, we've been talking to MnDOT, League of Minnesota Cities, waiting for some clarification from the legislature and waiting for some additional information. That's almost 5 years ago. Police Chief Hoppy at the time said, events that I described are accurate. We know it's a concern. We're getting information and data from the speed monitors so we can establish peak time volumes and speeds so we can get additional resources out there. Again, 5 years ago. Mayor, you said, you could check the tapes. I just listened to them today. It'd be interesting to know how many are neighbors, how many of the speeders are neighbors, or people that live in the neighborhood. That doesn't mean a thing. That doesn't matter. People can come from any place. They can be neighbors, they can be residents. It doesn't matter. If it were legal, I would put speed bumps out there. I know it's a problem. I've been on that road. That was back in July of 19. Fast forward a year or so, no, a couple years, I guess. April of 2021. I exchanged an email with Chief Hoppy, former Chief Hoppy. I said that I haven't seen any law enforcement out there, any law enforcement presence over the past year or so, and that speeds continue to be excessive, and I continue to see the same concerns that I expressed in July of 19. Chief Hoppy said, 2020 has been a challenging year due to COVID. Okay, I'll give him that. Staffing, problems, etc. He's reinitiating traffic enforcement initiatives and I should see significant increase in stops. That was April of 2021. At this point, I've shared everything that I have observed. I've shared my thoughts as a resident. I've shared my thoughts as a professional engineer. You've acknowledged the problems. They're on tape. You've acknowledged there's a problem. 12 days ago, April 26th, 11 a.m., I'm sitting on my computer in the house. I hear a large bang. I thought a tree fell on the house. It wasn't a tree. It was a head-on collision out at the end of the driveway. I looked out the front window. I ran to the phone and called 911. I knew it was going to be bad. Next 3 or 4 hours, I witnessed at least 15 emergency vehicles and at least 40 to 50 personnel from multiple agencies respond to this head-on crash. That's heartbreaking. It's tragic to know what the families are going through right now. Not necessary. It wasn't necessary. We know there's a problem. Problems have been acknowledged. No traffic fatality is acceptable, and it's our responsibility to fix it. So, to close, for at least the 4th time, I asked the city council, the police chief, the city engineer, perhaps even the city attorney, to make an easy decision and reduce the posted speed on Pioneer Road to 30 miles an hour and to continue to enforce that speed limit. Just one last thing, can I address her?
We're running over, but
The
okay.
dynamic message signs, they
Yep.
do not work. July of 19, I talked about how I've observed them operate. A vehicle approaches at a high rate of speed, you see the number, you see the frowny faces, you see the speed limits go down as they approach, and then immediately afterwards, you hear them stepping on the gas, because in most cases, those signs are just prior to a tangent section, which means a straight stretch of roadway, and the speed is reduced. However, as soon as the vehicle has passed the sign, you can hear it increase. Thank you very much. I know I'm over my time. Please don't let anything more happen.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Conklin, thank you for the additional information. Appreciate it.
All right, and last on our agenda is Commissioner Monska. Was there anybody else who wanted to speak tonight? Should we do, and we'll have your update last? Okay, come on up. And give your name and address, please.
I'm Jason Roberts at 24626 Hamlet Avenue. On the agenda for tonight, we're looking at the resolution to approve the rezone of the rural residential to commercial property. I just had a few questions. Last time I was here, I kind of, came up to the podium and said, hey, looking to get some context on what is possibly going in here. So I kind of wrote down a list of questions, and I'm not expecting you to answer them tonight. I'm just trying to get some more information at future meetings. So one of my questions is the Highway 8 repaving, the restructure of Hamlet Avenue. Will we be getting city sewer and water if that road is repaved? That was one of my questions. With the comprehensive plan that we looked at last week, it shows the commercialization of the properties on Highway 8 rezoned. Is that something that's happening 1 year out, 5 years out, 10 years out? I know a lot of my neighbors want the same answers. With the rezoning of the property across the street, what will the city do with the increase of traffic on Hamlet Avenue? Where will that entrance to that business be? And then also, what will be done to keep that commercial property, if it does get rezoned, what will be done by the city to keep that out of the vision of the residents that are on that road? Will our property value be going down, due to our land being zoned commercial? Will our taxes go up? Where does that leave us in the future, I guess is where we're at. What I think I said this already, but what, if there is a conditional use permit filed on the property, which Fred made, last meeting, I just recommend if you guys do approve that, if you've looked at the pictures that we provided last time, you guys are gonna have to do some strict cleanliness standards across that street. And I won't go into detail, but Fred has the pictures. And then will the residents be allowed to give input on what they wanna see for, certain curb appeal, screening, fencing, trees, just that kind of stuff.
Perfect.
So, and that's all I have to say, and I'm just looking for some answers on it.
Okay.
So I appreciate your
We
guys'
probably can't give you quite a few of those answers tonight, but we'll start working on them.
Okay.
All
appreciate
right,
it.
thanks for coming up again, we
Yep.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else before Commissioner Monska comes up? No? All right, it's your turn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick update. On the 22nd of May, we are going to have which is Wednesday night, there's an additional initiative cooperative meeting, which we had previously, and that was really well attended and very helpful. Starts at 6, going to be done at 8:30. I think they'll be quite prompt. The staff that's heading that up has done a great job. We are doing something which I kind of wonder about. we're looking at changing our logo.
The
And-
county logo?
Yes, and I don't like that because in 2008, Commissioner Delaney really worked hard at getting a beautiful painting of the shape of the county, and it represents our number one asset, which is, of course, the Interstate Park, which is the number one visited park in the state of Minnesota. The one that they're looking at, they've asked that we not release it, which I think is perhaps a mistake. I think people should see what they think and then we can find out. But it's plum and gold, which is the state colors of Arizona. And we had no input on it until right before we voted on it at their last meeting. So, and there's also a sun spray on top, and there's just the words then. So there's no representation of the lakes. Although maybe there might be a river or something underneath the spray of sun. There's kind of like a flowing thing, which could maybe be a trail or a road, or maybe a river. So I'm interested to know what you think.
Commissioner Monska, has the county, are there minutes so we can read the minutes? Can we get minutes from that meeting to understand what's all going on, or how you didn't see it? You guys are kind of the top of the chain there.
Well, however, I'm the only one that questioned the color choice too.
Okay.
There's a color wheel.
Yeah.
And when you have colors on either side of the wheel,
Yeah.
Things look good. For example, if you look at your symbol, if you look at the color wheel, you've got two contrasting colors, which is why it jumps out. I have a plum shirt and a green tie. Those colors are contrasting colors, so they look good together. The colors that they have chosen are closer on the color wheel, so they kind of work together more and they kind of get blended in, so they're not as striking. And I'm no expert. I don't have a degree in art, but I did take art lessons from a really great artist in Stacy for a while when my son was doing it. But it's frustrating to me because the board voted 4-1 to go along with it, and I really think it would be good to let people see it first, because it is certainly a huge expense to do it. I'm not sure if it's a bad one. I guess I would want to see what you think about it when I no doubt it'll be introduced at the meeting, and maybe at that time they'll make it public. Certainly let me know, because I can certainly try again to see if we can maybe make some changes to it.
Can the county administrator send over the minutes? Or, because I don't think you tape everything, right?
No, it's not taped, but however, and really the discussion isn't a part of the minutes.
Okay.
So it's simply the motion, you'll see approved, and then the vote.
Okay.
What I would try to do is I'll see if we can release it sooner so that you can look at it. I mean, it affects everybody, and so that's what it is. So I don't know. I'm afraid that I'm kind of vested in the current logo. I brought my coat. If anyone doesn't know what the logo is, but it's a beautiful painting. It comes from a painting actually, from an artist, local artist, and it's gorgeous. But it's a shape of the county, and then there is the Chisago County.
Sure. Okay.
But anyway, so it might be a great thing. I've been trying to keep an open mind, but I'm a little bit more warm to it. But to me, it reads, I don't know if I should say this, it reads Arizona. And there's no Minnesota on it, so I'm just thinking we might really increase the economic development in Arizona. Sorry, that's it. I know, I'm sorry. Now,
Or use the colors of Wyoming.
well, the Wyoming colors, I don't know which colors you have, but.
I'm thinking the state.
Oh, the state.
As long as you're doing Arizona.
Oh, the colors of Wyoming, Minnesota, Wyoming, the state of Wyoming. What are the colors of the state?
I have no idea.
Oh, I'd have to look it up.
But if we're
It's all
gonna go for
good.
another
It's all-
state,
Yeah, we
Okay.
need to move on. It's all
Oh, yeah,
good.
yeah, okay. Do you have anything that I should be working on? And you may very much like this new logo, so please don't, if you like it, I will be fine with that. It's just, I just wanted to give you an update on it.
Well, we could use any help you can possibly give.
Tell me.
Trying to get our bonding bill through. So talking to our representatives, state and, Senate and House representative, that would be amazing.
I'll talk
And-
with our lobbyists too and our
Yep.
staff to make sure we're pushing Wyoming's request.
Okay, that would be
I'll
great.
do that.
And
I'll do
also,
that right away. Tonight
the,
even I'll call.
also the Housing First, where they're taking away development rights for the city and for the residents to, it's got back into the bill again.
Oh, you're kidding.
Nope.
You're kidding. That is a
Nope.
disaster.
Yeah,
And
so
thank
if you can talk to the senator and
We
the
are-
House rep, that'd be great.
All right, we are very concerned about that.
Yeah.
And that is going to really adversely affect the value of residents. We have our lives, well, sorry,
Yeah, we
you
get
can
it.
speak on it later.
I've been up the Capitol a lot. Yeah,
Okay, thank
so
you,
we're good.
Madam
But if you
Mayor.
could help, that'd be great.
We will.
All
Okay,
right.
anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. I'll
All right.
stay for the whole meeting.
Okay,
to learn.
perfect. Thank you. All right, anybody else? Last chance.
Can I add one more thing?
Let's,
Real quick.
very quick, because we're really running late.
So the only other thing that I wanted to add that might affect your guys' decision or to think about is since 2009, I've lived on Hamlet Avenue. Steve Witzel has not been a resident of that house in Wyoming, period, since 2009 I moved in there. So, just so you guys know that. that's my
Perfect.
piece.
All right, thank you. We appreciate that. Moving on to the agenda, which is number 1, approval of minutes. Consider approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for April 16th, 2024. Are there any comments or questions? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a first from member Onstead. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by member Yeager. All in favor?
Aye.
Linda, did you?
Yeah.
Opposed? So approved. Number 2, consider the minutes of the work session meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for April 30th, 2024. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by member Onstead. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Yeager. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Consent agenda number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Does anybody wish to pull an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve consent agenda item number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by member Yeager. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Acknowledgement receipts of reports of officer boards, commissions, department heads. Number 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. I wish to pull number 13. Does anybody else wish to pull a report? Seeing none, number 13 is a report from Steve Reeves, who's our new Public Works Superintendent. And he'll kind of talk to us about Arbor Day and some other stuff that's going on.
Madam Mayor and Council, we hosted Arbor Day event on Saturday, the 26th, I believe it was, of April. And there was a large amount of effort put into the project by our Public Works crew, getting the locates set where the trees would be planted to make sure that we could properly dig, not affect any utilities. We had 2 staff that attended the event, and I thought the event, I was unable to attend. I was out of town on a pre-scheduled vacation from prior to my start date. And from the feedback that I received last night at the Park Commission and from the crew, it sounded like it went very well. As far as we've got the water main project that's started this week up by Regal Machine underneath 35. We had our second construction meeting today on that. Work is being, or equipment's being placed and work has begun on that. Anything else particular on the
Nope.
report?
Main thing
or
was the Arbor
Day?
Arbor
Yeah, it
Day.
was well attended by Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts.
Yeah.
And got good feedback from people that attended on the efforts from the crew that were there.
Perfect. I'll give them a shout out at the end. So they did a great job. I'm going to ask a really geeky question to Mr. Erickson. So the water main, are we going to televise that at all? I mean, to me, it's a little fascinating how it digs underneath the freeway and the highway and it doesn't interfere with anything. I mean, So I am being kind of geeky about it, I know, but it's kind of fascinating.
It is a really interesting project. We typically don't televise the water main. We do pressure testing and various things to make sure that it is sound. That project is underway now, and it will really start in earnest with the actual jacking operation underneath the freeway starting next week.
Okay. Is there like a big machine? And
Yeah.
a big drill? You know what I'm envisioning?
There's an auger and there's
Okay.
a hydraulic press that pushes the pipe
Okay.
as you auger it out. You don't want the auger to get ahead of it or you'll
Yeah.
have some collapse. And so,
Okay.
certainly if any council members interested, could make arrangements to kind of have someone show you what the operation there if you'd like.
I will be there. Let me know when that's happening.
We
Me
will,
too.
we will go out there for our next Wednesday for our street.
Oh, great.
Street project tour. We will go by the site so council can kind of
Okay.
see what they have done, the progress so far.
Yeah.
Good point.
To me, that's just fascinating how you do that. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, but will they be working?
They may be at that
They
point.
certainly will likely be working good 10, 12-hour days is what they indicated. So they likely would still be working while we're out there, so good point. That'll probably be either their first or second day of operation, so.
Okay. Or we can put Mr. Reeves out there. Maybe he'd like to play with that big truck. Just kidding.
Yes, I was up there this afternoon and, for the meeting, and they were just getting the shoring box and everything complete. It's the biggest shoring box I've ever seen. It's the, like a 2-stage, they stack it. It was really interesting. So I'm curious though, did you mean televise the actual pipe?
I just
Or
want
did you
to
want to see video of the operation?
kind of video of the operation, I think.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that part is fascinating, and I think our residents would too. And
We
the
certainly
fact
can
that
do
it just doesn't interrupt any businesses, it's not interrupting
Right.
anything. So, yeah, that's
We
what,
could-
it'd
we-
be,
We can explore that,
yeah,
Part of a historical
see
record.
what's available.
yeah, that would be great.
That project in general is interesting. The sewer force main also has a pipe bursting so that we're not interrupting traffic and excavating
Yeah.
and things like that. And then also directionally drilling 10 feet underneath the river as well with that force main. So
Okay.
really 3 different techniques that we have with that project.
And I really don't think we want me to do a Facebook Live out there. So if we could maybe have something a little more professional.
I follow you. I
it'd be great.
apologize. I misunderstood the
Yeah,
televising
that's good.
part. Yep.
It's all good. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Number 14 is Wyoming Touch a Truck Event 2024, which is very popular. Mr. McFarland, you'll be talking through this communication?
Honorable Mayor and Council, this is just a communication item to let you know that Wyoming will be hosting its 2024 Touch a Truck event on June 1st, Saturday, from 10 to noon. The event's going to be held at Goodview Park this year. We have numerous returning partners such as Police and Fire, Public Works, Polaris, and Rosenbauer. We're also expecting, as of right now, over 5 new partners in town that are going to be there, such as Hallberg Marine, Duke's Rental, Olson Sewer, and Forest Lake area schools. It's a great event just because it allows members of the community, the families, and the kids to go out and see the cool trucks we have in town, but it also highlights a lot of the great organizations and businesses that we have here as well. So we're looking forward to that. Planning is underway, and we have over 25 vehicles right now, and hopefully more to come. So should be great.
That's amazing. I know it's back to the original spot, I believe. We've been doing this a while.
Correct, yep.
Back to the
I was not present in the past when it was at Old Town Hall Park, but
Yeah.
Goodview Park this year, so very
Yeah.
excited.
Good job on getting some additional vendors here, so. All right, new business, number 15, to consider and approve the 2023 City of Wyoming audit presentation, Bergen KDV. Mr. Linwood.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is an annual necessity as a city, as we do have an independent auditing firm that comes in and reviews the city's financials for the prior year. So this year, financials from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. So tonight we have Aaron Dahl from Bergen KDV with us, and he is going to present the findings and just do a high-level presentation for the communication letter and the financial statements that have been completed by Bergen KDV. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Dahl.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Thank you, Rob, for the introduction. As he alluded, I'm Aaron Dahl. I'm a audit manager with Bergen KDV. Thanks again for the opportunity to serve as your auditors again this year, and we'll kind of walk through some of the communications here tonight. So starting with the financial communications here. So just to kind of go over the responsibilities here quick, management is responsible for the financial statements. We as auditors are responsible to express an opinion on the financial statements. For the fiscal year ending in December 31st, 2023, we did issue an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion we can give as auditors. So a great job by the ABDO staff and finance team and the city employees working to get all that information compiled. With that, we're providing assurance that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. We also issue a report on the government auditing standards. Happy to report no audit findings there, which is a great accomplishment for a city of your size to not have any lack of segregation of duties or things like that. There's good checks and balances within the city. And we also issue a report on the Minnesota legal compliance, and happy to report no legal compliance findings there as well. So that's where we look at things like bidding, collateral, conflicts of interest, things of that nature. Moving along to the audit pieces. So we'll kind of walk through some of the pieces of the communication letter, and starting with the general fund and taking a look at the revenues here first. Overall, revenue did increase by about 16% for the year, or up about $674,000 for the general fund. The largest increase was in the intergovernmental revenue category, which increased by about $368,000 with additional public safety aid funding that was received for 2023. Revenue from taxes and special assessments also increased by about $199,000 for the year, with an increase in the tax levy allocation for the general fund specifically. Investment income increased by about $163,000 compared to the prior year, with the better performing investment market for 2023. And then the miscellaneous revenue category also increased by about $52,000 with some additional reimbursements received in that category. These increases were partially offset by about a $105,000 decrease in licenses and permit revenue based on lesser building activity in 2023 compared to 2022. On the expenditure side for the general fund, expenditures increased by about 1.7%, so compared to that 16% increase in revenues, definitely a lesser increase on the expenditure side. Public works expenditures increased by about $112,000 for the year, with some higher salary and benefits based on the number of employees and program hours. General government expenditures increased by about $62,000, with an increase in the amount allocated for liability insurance to that particular program. And then these increases were partially offset by a decrease in public safety expenditures for the year, which was about $82,000 less than the prior year, with lesser salaries, benefits, and other charges for the public safety side. The other categories were relatively in line with the previous year. Next, we just have a couple pie charts here comparing the general fund revenues for 2023 and 2022 by percentage. As I kind of alluded to earlier, there were some increases and decreases throughout the categories, most notably with taxes and special assessments going from about 83% to 76% in 2023. Intergovernmental did increase from about 7.5% up to 14%. And then again, licenses and permits decreased from about 6.5% to 3.5% for the year. Similarly, for the expenditure side of things, by category, they did remain relatively consistent with some fluctuations noted as we kind of previously discussed. So you can see public safety drop from about 56 down to 53, general government from 15 up to 16.7, and then public works from 21.5 up to 23.9. Taking a look at the general fund budget to actual results, so the council did approve a budget that called for about $4.2 million in both revenues and expenditures, so a balanced budget for 2023. Actual revenues came in about $690,000 over budget, while the actual expenditures were about $131 under budget. So with the net other financing uses mixed in there totaling $128,000, those weren't included in the budget. These variances allowed the fund balance for the general fund to increase by about $693,000 for the end of the year, as you can see in the bottom line there for the budget. The actual revenues of about $4.8 million came in about $690,000 or 16.4% over the budgeted revenues there. Again, the driver there was intergovernmental revenues, which was about $523,000 over budget with that additional public safety aid that came in. along with some recognition of the ARPA funds, or the American Rescue Plan Act funds, that were spent with the revenue recognized there in 2023. The miscellaneous revenue category was about $202,000 over budget, again based on that investment income and reimbursements exceeding the budgeted amounts. And then again, the licenses and permits were about $55,000 under budget, with that less building permit activity than anticipated. On the expenditure side, we did have some variances there as well. The actual expenditures were under budget by about $131,000 or 3.1%. The biggest variance there was in the public safety expenditures, based in part due to less expenditures for salaries, benefits, insurance costs, communications, and other maintenance costs. Moving on to the next slide here, we have the fund balance for the past 5 years for the general fund. So the unrestricted fund balance of about $2.5 million at the end of 2023 represented about 7 months of 2023 expenditures. The city does maintain an unrestricted fund balance policy of an amount not less than 55% of the subsequent year's budgeted expenditures for the general fund. And at the end of 2023, that unrestricted fund balance represented 59%, so above that 55% threshold of the 2022 budgeted expenditures. Next, we have tax capacity rate, and then the tax levy amounts for the past 5 years. Comparing 2019 through 2023, the tax capacity has increased by about 4.1 million, or 46.1%, up to a little over 13 million at the end of 2023. Comparing that to the certified levy, which has increased by a little over 1 million, or 25.8% over that same time frame. As a result of that, the taxable tax capacity was increasing at a higher rate than the tax levy. The tax capacity rate has decreased from 45.7% in 2019 down to 39.4% in 2023. So that's kind of the dip you see there for 2023 on the chart there. Next, we'll get into the enterprise funds, and starting with the water fund. Operating revenue for the year was about 2.2% higher than 2022. The expenditures decreased by about $120,000 or 16.6%, with decreases noted for meter expenses and the recognized pension expense. The result of 2023 activity was operating income of about $114,000, including depreciation there, so the highest of the 5 years presented for the water fund. We have the components of net position here for the water fund for the past 5 years. For the yearly, from 2022 to 2023, it increased by about $173,000. The net investment piece increased by $320,000, while the unrestricted net position decreased by $146,000 for the water fund. Next, we have the sewer fund operations, with operating revenues decreasing by about $73,000 for the year, with decreased usage, while the operating expenses decreased by about $2,600. So the operating loss here of about $130,000 for the sewer fund, and then operating income, if you kind of factor out the depreciation, of $263,000 for the year. The components in that position here, there was a slight increase of about $14,000 from 2022 to 2023, with the unrestricted portion increasing by $129,000, with the net investment in capital assets decreasing by $114,000. And then lastly, we have the surface water fund and the operations for this one. The revenues did increase by $58,000 for this fund, while the expenses decreased by $113,000 for the year. Revenue increased as the surface water rates were increased, while the expenses decreased in large part with less repair and maintenance needs in 2023, along with a lesser pension expense that needed to be recognized. So the result in 2023 here was operating income of $148,000, which again was positive for the first time in the 5 years presented, and was the highest of the 5 years presented. And then the operating income without depreciation jumped all the way up to over $200,000 for 2023. And lastly, the components in that position here for the surface water fund, those increased by $170,000 up to nearly $1.2 million. And then the net investment increased 36,000, while the unrestricted portion increased by 133,000 based on those current year operations. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions or comments the council may have.
Yeah, I'll start. I know we received the ARPA funds. So when we use that ARPA funds, how does that get taken out? Obviously, it looks like an increase right now, but it takes out. How does that affect our budget when we spend it?
Those are expenditure driven, so you don't recognize the revenue until you actually make the expenditures related to the use of those ARPA funds. So even though a chunk of it was probably received in 2022, the fact that you kind of held on to some of that and spent it in 2023, that's where you saw the expenditures go up, and then also the revenues for the general fund. I think that's where the ARPA funds were placed. So it kind of equals out, so you don't have revenues or expenditures kind of outpacing the other based on the use of those funds.
Okay, perfect. And Chief Bauer, this is for you. I know we had money put in, the state had a program. Can you just explain really quickly what that program was and why we received it?
Is this the public safety aid money you're referring to? Yeah, so every city received a chunk of money based on population. It was received very end, I believe like December 21st-ish of last year.
Okay.
And that is to provide additional assistance for recruitment, equipment. The cities do have quite a bit of latitude on what they can use those funds for.
Okay, so the same thing, when they use it, that money, it won't reflect.
That one's actually different because that one's not expenditure driven. Basically, you just get the aid, you can spend it when you want to.
Okay.
So the way that one works is it will show up as a restricted part of fund balance, so it's still set aside for use in the public safety, but it is recognized as revenue in 2023, and that's kind of what caused the big jump there, because I don't think you're expecting that much when you're putting together the budget.
Right,
so.
exactly. So I wanted a little more explanation so people understand what it is too, so I appreciate that. All right, questions from council. Commissioner Onstead?
No questions.
Okay. Member Yeager?
No questions.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks again.
Really appreciate it. Thanks to the audience for staying in and listening to that and seeing all the charts and stuff, so. All right, yeah.
Could we please have a motion to accept the audit?
Yep, working on that. Okay, so, number 15, we're still on that. We need a motion to approve the 2023 City of Wyoming audit. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Member Yeager. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so approved. Thank you for coming out, appreciate it. Number 16, to consider resolution 240543, a resolution approving a rezone Z24001 rural residential 2 or R2 to commercial C district, location Hamlet Avenue at Highway 8, northeast corner, applicant Stephen Witzel, property ID number 21.10674.02. Mr. Weck, are you presenting this?
Yes, Madam Mayor. There you go. Mr. McFarland is pulling up the PowerPoint. So, Mr. Witzel requesting a rezoning of his property, rezoning from R2 to the commercial district. His intent right now is a manufactured home sales lot. To answer the questions earlier, the screening, traffic, the CUP, the fencing, trees, all that will be addressed during that site plan and conditional use permit review. This is just for the rezoning itself. We does not require an amendment to land use plan because it matches the comprehensive plan that the council adopted in 2022. He had originally subdivided the property or rezoned the property in 2006 while it was still in the township. As a township zoning, he had to go to the county then and rezone it with the county also. He did not do that, so that did not happen. So it stayed with the rural residential zoning through the township, and then as the merger happened with the city. So now he is coming in to apply for that rezoning after that annexation. So next slide. Currently, it's 5.47 acres. It's undeveloped. It's treed lots. Hamlet Avenue access will no longer exist. The applicant must meet the Covered Lake, Forest Lake watershed district regulations and the future city ordinances. The properties around them are all zoned either rural residential or agricultural, but they are all also under the comprehensive plan to be commercial in the same zoning district as that, except for the north would be remain in the single-family residential. Next. Staff is recommending the approval of the rezoning, that the standards have been met. The Planning Commission is also recommending approval of the rezoning because the standards have been met.
Thank you. Member Onstad, any questions?
I have a lot of questions that actually came up even since the resident brought some stuff up, but this is a kind of a big issue, and I actually kind of think that we need a full council to vote on this. So I'd ask that we table this until the next time that we have a full assembly.
Are you making a motion to
Yes,
table?
I would like to motion that we table this.
Okay, so can you kind of read that as resolution? Okay, so you are wanting to table, so resolution 240544, is that what you're saying?
Correct, yes.
Okay, all right. I can make that second,
Okay.
okay?
Do we have time?
Do we have other, we don't table too much.
No, Mr. Weck, I just want to talk about the 60-day rule. Do we have the appropriate time per table?
The application. Slow scroll. 60 days is up on May 28th. We can extend it an additional 60 days with a reason.
Extend another 60 days is what you said, so
We-
that puts it to July.
July 27th or so, if you want me to do that.
Yeah.
But right now, this is still work into the next council meeting.
Okay, Mr. Linwood, can we get that onto the next one if it
If you
so
want.
does get tabled?
You can put it on, right, you could put it onto the 21st agenda, yes.
May
The
21st.
motion should specify when it will be taken back up. So
Okay.
if you want to table it, so the motion would be to table resolution 240543 until the, assumingly May 21st meeting, unless you wanted to table it further. But the motion to table should specify when it will be brought back up.
Okay.
Would 2 weeks from now be an acceptable time frame?
Yeah, that'd be 2 weeks.
Yes, based on the date of the application, and then I don't have any information from any of our council members that anyone will be absent at that meeting at this time. So I know I knew one absence far in advance tonight and one closer, but no one has indicated to me they will not be present at that meeting at this time.
Okay, so do you want to still move forward with your motion
I'd like to move forward with motion to be tabled for 2 weeks.
for the agenda
For the,
on May
I should have wrote this down beforehand.
21st? We don't do this often, so it's kind of, yeah.
For it to be tabled for 2 weeks, pending full council.
Okay, does that work, Mr. Lynn?
That works.
Okay, all right, I made a second with that, so we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Linda, did you vote?
Yeah, I said aye.
I didn't hear you, sorry. Okay,
There's a
All right.
microphone here.
all right. So that'll be tabled to so the next meeting, council meeting, which is the 21st. We'll take it up, and we'll have full council, which I think is fair. All right, fabulous. Okay, we'll move on to number 19, to consider a proclamation declaring National Public Works Week, May 19th through the 25th.
Mayor, I think we,
Did we not do it right?
no, we had
We're on 17.
17, I'm sorry, 17.
Just jumping ahead.
No, that's okay.
Okay. Number 17, to consider the hiring of Nicole Frazier for the police officer position with a tentative start date of May 13th, 2024. Chief Bauer, it's your turn.
We've worked really hard to hire someone. You can't pass me
I know,
up.
I'm sorry. You're right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. We are requesting, we have currently have 2 positions for police officer vacant. We went through a hiring process and identified Nicole Frazier after she completed all the conditions of her conditional offer of employment. She is coming to us. She worked for about 6 months with the city of Edina as a police officer, and also did campus security for Winona State University. She's a graduate of Winona State University, as a soccer coach for the city of Coon Rapids. We're looking to bring her in, giving her credit for the 6 months that she worked for the city of Edina at $33.17 an hour, and looking to have her start date be next Monday, May 13th. And also then we would bring her forward for her swearing-in ceremony at the next council meeting as well.
On the 21st?
Yes, 21st.
It's approved, okay.
Yes.
All right, questions from council, Member Yeager,
No questions.
Member Onstad?
No questions.
The only thing I'm gonna say is I'm excited to get, are we missing one? Or are
We're
we
missing
full
one
staff?
still. Nope, we still have one more to fill. but
Still one more to go?
Yes.
Okay, but
Yep.
this is exciting.
It's very exciting, yes.
All right, perfect,
Thank
thank
you.
you. We need a motion to approve the hiring of Nicole Frazier for the public officer position with a tentative start date of May 13, 2024. I'll make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So approved. Number 18 now. To consider Resolution 240544, a resolution receiving the feasibility report and setting the public hearing for the 2024 street improvement project. Mr. Erickson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. I have prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation to present the findings of the feasibility study. No problem. So
We have a program error? There we go.
Thank you, Grant. So again, this is the 2024 street improvement project. Whether that moves forward this year or not, we just wanted to make sure we highlight that this is one of the public improvement process steps is for the city council to receive the feasibility study, and at the conclusion, if you're inclined, to move forward and set the public hearing for this project. And so the project location was determined through extensive process of street evaluations, but you can see the roadways there identified and highlighted in red. That is the project location for this year's project. Next slide. Really just wanted a quick start out with a project schedule. Normally we kind of end with this, but this is a little unique process in which we're doing this, and so we wanted to again highlight that we received the feasibility was ordered back in the end of November. We had our first public informational meeting in January, and then we've done a lot of data gathering with survey and geotechnical work and televising of storm sewer and preparation of the feasibility study. And that brings us to this evening where we're asking the city council to receive the feasibility study, set the public hearing, and something a little bit different than what we typically have done is order the plans and specifications. We know that we talked a little bit about this at the last meeting that we had, a work session, and talked about the advantage of being prepared and ready to move forward with the project, whether it's this year or next year. We certainly all hope that it happens this year, but I just wanted to highlight that. And then you can really kind of see the rest of the process. We would have a second public informational meeting in advance of the public hearing, and really what that is to provide the residents with an opportunity to see the results and formulate their opinion and their questions in advance of that public hearing so that they're informed in advance rather than just hearing about it at that meeting. And then the public hearing taking place roughly in June. Again, this is, that will be this evening. We'll set that for the June 4th meeting. And then approval of plans and specifications sometimes later in June, and hopefully moving forward with construction in that late July, early August timeframe.
Okay.
A little background, again, Wyoming has aggressively undertaken many road improvement projects over the last, I'll say 10 years, really approaching 20 miles of roadways, and so making up for lost ground from years ago, but certainly has been very aggressive in doing a really nice job with their road improvement choices there. The capital improvement plans are based on a number of criteria. We've all done our road tours. We do our street rating, which will again be updated this year, and certainly a lot of feedback from our Public Works Department. And the 2024 street improvement project were originally constructed in the 1980s and 1990s, and so certainly lived their life, and we've all are aware of the condition and the need. And so due to the surface and subsurface deterioration, we're not looking at something like a mill and overlay or a pavement maintenance type project. It is more of a reclamation or a reconstruct type project that we're undertaking here. It is certainly minimal, if you will, as far as little as we can do, but it's something that we feel very confident will last very long. Minor drainage issues had been identified with the televising, along with some deficiencies and opportunities for enhancement with Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District, and relatively minor, replacing culverts, things of that nature, but things that we typically do before we replace a roadway. Just a series of photos. You can see this was done late last fall. We're all aware of the condition. We can kind of go through these here. There's just a number of slides that really just show the pavement deterioration, patches on top of patches, of course, and inadequate drainage and cross slope, and certainly requires a lot of work from our public works staff. So the proposed improvements, I did touch on that just very briefly, but it is full pavement replacement throughout the project. It does consist of a couple different types of improvements, and I'll highlight that, but really the road widths will match what exists there today. The road profile will, for the most part, match what exists there today. We are going to correct some areas that don't drain properly. We are proposing a full concrete curb and gutter in the urban section where curbs currently exist with asphalt curb. We're proposing to replace with concrete curb, and then the rural section would remain rural. It's just simply replacing the pavement section there. There are some minor drainage improvements, as I mentioned. Again, relatively minor considering the size of the project. There are opportunities for us to collaborate with Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. We have talked with one property owner in particular that really fits a good opportunity for enhancement, and they are willing. This is something that is not required as part of our project, but something that the Watershed District is very much in favor of tackling. They may work with us to incorporate that into our plans. We'll work through the details of that and see how they want to move forward, if that's something that's included in our design and they fund, but we'll have more information on that, but it won't be with city funds. Next slide. Really, this is again just a typical section that shows the urban section. The roadways there are 28 feet in width, and it would include concrete curb and gutter. And the other next section is one that shows the rural section. And that is 24 feet in width on average, right? There's some variability with width. But those ditches would remain along the roadway and not adding curb and gutter. That would really change the scope of the project and really increase costs because we don't have storm sewer facilities and things of that nature. So pretty standard with how we've tackled previous projects. Just to summarize our project funding, 20% of the project costs are assessed for both surface and drainage improvements only. We've had other projects where there's been sewer and water involved, and those are not assessed. We do not have that in this area of the community, so it is strictly surface and drainage improvements only, and so 20% of the total project cost would be assessed. And assessments are based on the city's assessment policy, which really allocates an assessment per each unit, per each buildable unit. We do not have any subdividable parcels out there, so each unit that exists there today would receive one assessment, and the city would pay the remaining 80% of the project cost. Attached or shown there are really the two different project area types, the green being the rural section roadways and the blue being the urban section roadways. And you can see there's an odd blue one marked in there, and that's just because their driveway happens to be on the urban section, and so that's why that is allocated the way it is. There's a large parcel on the eastern side that does not have subdividable frontage. You can see it's quite large. Mm-hmm. That would still only receive one assessment because they only can have one access off of that. That also happens to be the parcel where there's an opportunity for some project enhancements. The estimated, area 1, so again, that is the green area. The assessments, again, for the rural section are just over $6,100 per unit. Again, this is based on our estimate. The actual numbers are based on the actual costs if we move forward with construction. The next slide, again, is 20% of the costs associated with that urban section portion of the project, resulting in $6,525 per unit. And these assessments are really pretty closely aligned with what we've seen in other projects. There's been some variability based on the type of project, but certainly less than we had anticipated when we initially had some soil boring results that weren't favorable, but we did some verification on that and are comfortable with moving forward with our design that we've identified now. Next slide. I think we're all familiar with the process, and this is more for property owners, and we'll certainly share more detail at the public hearing. But as you're aware, this is a project that does follow the state statute, chapter 429. There's a lot of details associated with that regarding notice to property owners, assessment process, appeals. We'll go through and highlight all of that for the property owners at the next meeting. Next slide. Assessments typically paid over a 10-year, sometimes a 15-year. We'll have that discussion here again. Typically for a project of this size would likely be a 10-year assessment. We have had in the past where we've had really large assessments, 15-year, but that's something that we'll want to discuss with council and see what direction they want to go. Interest rates have varied over the last few years from anywhere from 4 to 5.25%. And there's a number of different options regarding this. Property owners would have 30 days after the assessment hearing to pay in full without any interest accruing. If they choose not to do that, it would go on property taxes over that 10 or 15-year period. And again, this is really just a flow chart highlighting that special assessment process, that 429 process. And we're at one of the earlier stages of this, accepting the feasibility study, but this is a standardized process that we are required to follow. So with that, that is the scope and costs and financing of the project. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, staff is requesting that council approve the resolution, receiving the feasibility study, setting the public hearing for June 4th, and then also authorizing the preparation of plans and specifications.
All right, questions from council. Member Onstad.
I noticed that 256, which is in the same area, which is kind of a dead-end street after it connects with 255th. Curious why that was not included. It looks like it would fit in with this project.
200 and, Rob, can you?
So, it's what goes down to Hawk Meadows. So where,
Okay.
just before where the two X's, two roads cross, it's that corner. It's the road that goes south from there.
So that roadway is included in a future capital improvements plan. That's part of our part of our 5-year CIP. It's just part of that neighborhood, and so we generally try to keep similar age roadways and similar schedules and not have a patchwork. So that one we're challenging with our financing as it is, and so it's easy to justify, like you have, like, well, this roadway needs it as well, and why aren't we? It's in the same proximity. Why aren't we extrapolating and moving further? And so we do struggle with the size of these projects, and that is one that is in the CIP. It just doesn't happen to be this year's project.
Okay, yeah, that's, just had some questions about that.
Yeah,
Because it is.
good question.
It is in need of repair at some point, but why wouldn't it be done this year? And that explains it.
And it is a different type of improvement as well. We believe that project is more in line for a mill and overlay project rather than a full street reconstruction. Not to say that they couldn't happen as the same project, but they are a little bit different type of improvement that we're anticipating there.
Sounds good.
All right. Member Yeager.
Is this a full reconstruction rather than reclamation?
It is a little bit unique, and so it is more of a pavement removal. We aren't able to raise the roadway. We would really like to do a reclamation project and just grind up the asphalt with the underlying aggregate and raise the roadway. And then build, and then pave on top of that. But that would really essentially raise that roadway about 4 to 5 inches. And it would really create driveways to pitch back towards houses in a lot of instances. And so we may do some of that where we can, increase the road elevation, but it creates a lot of issues with a number of areas with regard to trapping water so it doesn't come out to the roadway by raising the roadway. And so we do have some limitations on that. And so Steve and I have driven that, and oftentimes it may work in most areas, but you have a driveway or a number of driveways that are really kind of your weakest link where you're not able to just simply raise the roadway because you you either trap water on their property, or you have backfall in their driveways and create landlocked pieces of land that are now holding water. And so we gotta really be cautious of that. And so more of a pavement removal and a pavement placement, essentially. So we're not really increasing the roadway elevation.
Right, but you're not messing with the soils underneath as you would do in as a full reconstruction.
Right, so we are just in areas, right? So we have done the soil borings, and there's adequate gravel underneath the roadway already. And so we don't have to replace that and do like a full sand section. There is, we were close to having to look into that when we got our original soil borings back. And I mentioned sometimes borings don't really differentiate the soil layers as well when you're looking at a sandy class 5 versus a sandy subgrade and where that is. So we actually went out and did some cores and got a little bit more accurate representation of that. If we did have very substandard soils there, we would be looking at more of a reconstruction, but we're not looking at a complete pavement and subgrade removal and replacement.
So this is like a hybrid?
It is somewhat of a hybrid, yeah.
Okay. The other concern I would have would be the 15-year assessment. As you remember, my roads were done back in 2015 with a 10-year assessment. And I look at the condition of the roads now as I walk, and I'm quite disappointed in them. And so I would think that somebody who is, 15 years out, still paying their assessment, and then walks down the road and say, "Gee, they got potholes in it already."
I think we are definitely supportive of a 10-year assessment. We often do hear, people indicating that they would like more time. And so I think we just wanted to be cognizant of that, but I think staff would recommend and be more supportive of a 10-year assessment.
I think we only had a few different 15-year assessments. I think we've always given that up to council when we go through the process of the actual financing of the projects. We've had, most of them have been 10 years. Some of our, a couple of our higher assessment ones, we've looked at 15, but as usual, that'll go to council at that time period and we go through the financing.
May I understand why you would want to do 15-year assessments, especially what assessments at
We're not recommending 15 on this project.
Okay, he had
Well,
said.
it's up to the council at the end of the day. It will be your decision, correct?
Right. I just wanted to put out there the concern, like I've noticed when I walk down my street. And if I had been paying 15-year assessment, I would be quite grumpy about seeing the conditions, and I still haven't paid off my assessment.
People can also pay off their assessments early,
Right.
correct?
They
That's in there,
can at
do
any
that.
time. Yep.
Mhm.
Well,
It's up to the property owner how they
Right.
And
they go about that.
And if I have been doing this long enough, roads deteriorate based on what Wyoming is built on. So you're not gonna have a perfect road for 10, 15, 20 years.
yeah, unfortunately, we live in Minnesota, and it is not great for materials to last the extremes that we have, whether it's, the 40 below to the 105-degree temperatures, right? I mean, there is certainly challenges in Minnesota. There are some challenges with our pavement management that we've had across our industry with chip sealing, for instance, right? We've, it used to work really well, but there's change in material products. And we do follow the latest and greatest with MnDOT standards and specifications and material testing and all of those things. But it is, again, really a harsh environment, and they just don't last forever, right? You will build a roadway and it will crack the next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
There will be cracks that are formed, and we do pavement, crack filling and other applications that I know Mr. Reeves is going to employ as well as part of the ongoing maintenance of the roadways, not just fixing them and leaving them, but that it is certainly a challenge that we have.
Okay, and Mr. Linwood, have we had a problem when a resident has voiced that there's some potholes in their street or there's some cracking? Have we had an issue with Public Works going out there and taking care of that? It sounds like maybe there has been an issue, but I just wanted to hear from you if there has been.
I guess in regards to anytime we have complaints in regards to potholes or, obviously, Public Works, there are different areas that they work on and work through. But no, they essentially, those are communicated to the Public Works staff, and they're essentially put on a list, and then they work through. Right now, they've begun pothole patching this spring, and they're essentially through those lists. They're built into the list, but they kind of go through those on priority. And If there's real significant things, large potholes, they'll try to take care of those first, but some of the smaller ones, they'll kind of prioritize those as they go through. But you're correct, anytime we get an email or a phone call, those are communicated with our public works staff, and they're put on their list to be completed as a task of their just normal business.
Okay, perfect.
I
All right.
believe I gently mentioned that the last road trip.
I'm sorry?
I gently mentioned while we were on the bus at the last road trip that there was one hunker of a pothole starting to form.
Yeah, last year I know was a really rough year in the spring for potholes, no doubt.
Yeah, I know.
Last year was tough, but it was fixed, am I correct?
No,
That pothole was not fixed?
no, it wasn't.
Well, we'll just
The
send.
pothole in Thornbeck Ponds, is that the one you're speaking of?
No, it's the one, actually it's on my street, right, getting close to the park.
And that was since last year?
Well, I kind of mentioned it last year as we were driving by.
I think Mr. Erickson and I may have looked at that. I think it was
You
over
didn't
by
think it was
Galen
that
Park.
big of a deal yet.
Yeah, I think it was just a deviate, like a small indent in the road on that spot, I believe we looked at
It's
that.
getting a little bigger.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
we
we're
can,
off track.
we can add that to the list.
Yeah, we'll add it to the list, we're off track. So, let's get us back in track. We need a motion to approve Resolution 240544, a resolution receiving the feasibility report and setting the public hearing for June 4th for the 2024 street improvement project. I'll make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so approved. Now the fun stuff. Now we get there. All right, number 19, to consider a proclamation declaring National Public Works Week for May 19th through the 25th. Mr. Reeves, we're excited about this. They do a great job.
I couldn't think of a better warm-up act for Public Works Week than a road reconstruct
Right?
conversation right beforehand. So I put in a request for the mayor and the council to adopt a proclamation for Public Works Week 2024. So just a little background, Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure and facilities services that are vital to sustainable and resilient communities, the public health through drinking water, parks and recreation, provide a high quality of life for the community here in Wyoming. So the people that make this happen are the employees of the Wyoming Public Works Department. They, like I said, are responsible for the water supply, wastewater treatment, our public buildings, and other structures and facilities that make us proud to live here, live and work here. So I'm asking people, we've got a good audience here tonight, of citizens partaking in their civic duty by coming to the meeting, to take an interest in gain knowledge in what it takes to maintain the city and the infrastructure that we have here. So I'm asking everybody to join with me and recognize and pay tribute to the Public Works staff here in the city of Wyoming. These are the people who get up in the middle of the night, and I know that this is gonna be controversial, and come in and plow the roads in the middle of the night, and wake people up and fill the end of their driveways with snow. But this also provides a safe route to school for our kids on the school bus, or if we drop them off, and enable us to get to doctor's appointments and to work safely. Much of the important work that the crew does goes unnoticed. There's a saying in Public Works that we make normal happen. I didn't come up with that as a local Public Works director that says that. So when everything's humming along and people don't notice what's going on, we're silently behind the scenes taking water sample tests daily to make sure that drinking water is safe, and checking lift stations to make sure the waste is going away. And of course, patching potholes, so slowing you down when you're trying to get to the doctor or to school. So I wanted to recognize the dedicated Public Works staff we have here in Wyoming. All six of the guys are really great. I'm proud to work for them and proud to represent them here. So yeah, I'm proud to be a part of the community here and lead a tremendous staff. So.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Reeves, I can tell you that I was one of those people at 2 a.m. that got into a snowplow, and it was amazing to see how those big tractors work. And I actually was on there for 6 hours, and I was not bored. So it's a tough job. I've seen it. So we really do appreciate that. We need a motion to to adopt the proclamation declaring National Public Works Week for May 19th through the 25th. Do we
So
have a motion?
moved.
We have a motion by member Onstad. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Yeager. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. And last but not least, to consider a proclamation declaring National Police Week at May 12th through May 20th. Chief Bauer.
Wasn't prepared.
It's all good.
And after that one, I can't beat that.
You can't
That was
beat that.
amazing,
You
yes, but,
can't. No.
No, Police Week is May 12th through 18th. As I think everyone recognizes that we are in a really difficult time in policing with hiring and just ongoing challenges that are around the profession. And we're very grateful to have such a supportive community in Wyoming. And I think that's a give and take. That's an ongoing relationship that we have with the community. And we want to make sure that we're maintaining the trust that we have right now and continue to develop that. Fortunately, for the most part of my day, I get to work in an office and at a desk looking at budgets and other brutally mind-numbing things. But there are people out in the street that are, responding to emergencies and really are doing a phenomenal job as demonstrated with the fatality crash last week. It's a tough time to be in this line of work, and I know the people that are serving here still enjoy showing up to work every day, and it's important work, and as do I. Asking for council to recognize, create the proclamation for National Police Week, starting May 12th through the 18th.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yep. I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation declaring National Police Week as May 12th through May 20th. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. We'll go into reports. Member Onstad.
I attended the Park Advisory Commission last night, and I'd like to announce or tell that the dog park is coming along, and I believe the fencing has arrived and some of the equipment, and that could be up anytime soon.
Sure, just to clarify, the fencing will be going up as soon as Thursday, as late as Monday. So we're expecting it to be moving along nicely and hopefully up and going real soon here.
Very excited for that for the city. And thanks everybody for coming out and staying out. That's kind of nice to see. We don't see this many people after an hour and a half long, hour 40 minutes of meeting, but great to see you guys here.
All right, member Yeager.
Oh, I just attended the work session last week, and thank you all for coming, and thank you all for watching.
All right, and I attended the work session as well. I did attend the PAC meeting yesterday as a resident. It's always good to get those updates. I also visited the state capitol several times in the last couple of weeks, just getting people to know, those elected officials, how much we need our public safety building. So we did a lot of handshaking, a lot of speaking our truth on why we need what we need. So, and with that, I think, I need to thank you, Troop and Pack number 142, so the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts, Troop number 142 for being a part of the Arbor Day celebration, digging the holes, planting the trees, cleaning up yesterday across the way, which was super exciting to see them out there. They're a wonderful group. And also Dave Torma and Sam Guesthart for giving up their Saturday to help planting those trees. So shout out to them. I hope they're watching so they know what I meant yesterday. All right, with that, we do need a motion. We need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.